Imagine you are standing on the shoulder of a dark, rural highway in Japan.
Oh, and it is the middle of December, right?
Exactly, December.
Yeah.
The temperature is literally plunging toward freezing. You are carrying roughly 66 pounds of gear on your back.
Which is just a massive amount of weight.
Right. You haven't slept properly in days. Your stomach is completely empty. And then a wealthy driver pulls up in this heated luxury car and offers to buy you a warm hotel room for the night.
A total lifeline.
A total lifeline. And you look at this driver shivering uncontrollably and you say, no, thank you, just to prove a point.
It's wild. It defies every single biological survival instinct we actually possess.
It really does.
I mean, you are actively choosing to suffer. You're overriding your body's screaming alarms for warmth and safety purely to protect this concept you hold in your mind.
Well, welcome to the deep dive. Our mission today is to unpack a stack of incredibly raw audio logs detailing this grueling real-life hitchhiking journey across Japan.
These logs are from back in December of 2000, which is important context.
Yeah, pre-smartphone era. And for those of you who have been following along with us, we are picking up right where we left off. We are dropping into episodes 4 through 6 of the source material today.
Right, continuing the saga of Marcy.
Yes, Marcy, our traveler, or let's call him the ultimate endurance test dummy.
Yeah.
He started this whole thing way up north in Sapporo, Hokkaido.
And his grand master plan is just massive. He wants to hitchhike all the way down to Kyushu, and then...
As if that's not enough.
Right, exactly. Then he plans to launch an overland trip completely across the Asian continent, starting from South Korea.
It's an epic scale. But right now,
Mm.
he is stuck in Niigata, Japan. And he has a very specific high-stakes mission for today's leg of the journey.
Yeah, the stakes are incredibly immediate today. He absolutely must reach the city of Tsukuba by nightfall.
Because he has a friend waiting there, right?
Yes, which means a guaranteed place to sleep.
Okay.
If he fails to reach Tsukuba, that safety net just vanishes. He has no backup plan, no hotel reservation, and this super strict rule against spending his limited funds on accommodation. So it is a genuine all-or-nothing scenario against the clock and the elements.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because what we are looking at today isn't just some nostalgic travel diary.
Definitely not.
I promise you a wild mix of laugh-out-loud awkwardness, near-freezing physical survival, and some shockingly deep philosophy that will absolutely make you rethink how you handle the burdens in your own life.
Yeah, when you strip away the romanticized cinematic idea of a road trip, what these audio logs reveal is a profound study in the mechanics of empathy and the psychological tricks we use to maintain forward motion, plus the immense, sometimes genuinely dangerous weight of personal pride.
So let's get right onto the asphalt. You've come through these logs. How does this critical push toward Tsukuba actually begin?
Well, it begins with an immediate crushing setback.
Naturally.
Yeah. Marcy wants to make great time, so he hikes to the highway entrance to catch a long-distance ride, which makes sense.
Standard hitchhiking strategy.
Right. But within minutes, the police arrive.
Oh, no.
Yeah. They strictly ban him from hitchhiking there because pedestrians aren't allowed near the toll gates in Japan.
So he gets kicked out.
Totally banished to the slow, meandering local roads. Morale just plummets. But then, almost immediately, he catches his first ride from a guy in his late 20s who is a former biker.
So the journey turns into what I like to call the emotional toll road.
Oh, I like that.
Because when you hitchhike, you aren't paying for your transportation with cash, right? You are paying with emotional labor. You become a captive audience.
That dynamic is perfectly illustrated in this first car. The driver, this former biker, has just had his heart absolutely broken.
Oh, boy.
He is fresh out of a devastating romantic breakup. He doesn't just want a passenger. He needs a confessional.
So Marcy just has to sit there and absorb this incredibly sad love story.
He does. He performs this active, sympathetic listening. And because he provides that service so well, the driver who initially only offered to take him a short distance ends up driving him all the way down to Yuzawa.
Which is deep in Niigata Prefecture.
Exactly. He literally earns miles by absorbing a stranger's heartbreak. Empathy functions here as a literal survival strategy.
That is so interesting.
Yeah.
Because in normal society, listening to a stranger's breakup is, a polite inconvenience.
Right.
But in the hitchhiker's paradigm, that active listening is the combustible fuel that moves the vehicle forward.
It's a symbiotic emotional economy.
But the currency exchange rate changes wildly with every single car. I mean, what happens when the emotional labor goes from tragic to just unbearable.
Well, the logs detail a ride later that same day. Actually, it's December 23rd, so it's the eve of Christmas Eve.
The most romantic time of the year in Japan.
Exactly. He scores a ride, but it's with this wildly flirting, deeply romantic couple.
Oh, that sounds agonizing.
Oh.
You are trapped in a small metal docks with two people who are practically making out in the front seat. Yeah, the claustrophobia of that awkwardness must be suffocating. How do you even handle being the ultimate third wheel when you can't just leave?
You deploy a tactical retreat.
A retreat.
Yeah. Marcy hates the awkwardness so much that he fakes a stomachache.
Are you kidding me?
No, he clutches his stomach, pretends to be physically ill, and uses that as an excuse to shut down all communication.
That is hilarious.
He just curls up in the back seat, and the physical environment actually helps him pull it off. You have the hypnotic contrast of the freezing air hitting the cold window glass combined with the blasting car heater.
Oh, that'll put you right to sleep.
Exactly. It knocks him out completely. He actually falls asleep.
He uses fake physical illness as a shield against emotional labor.
It is a brilliant example of boundary setting. I mean, earlier, leaning into the heartbroken man's story was a strategy for progress.
Right. He got miles out of it.
But here, knowing when to completely disengage was a necessary act to preserve his own mental energy.
Yeah.
He recognizes he doesn't need to perform for this couple. They are highly entertained by each other. It highlights a critical adaptability, knowing when to lean in and when to play dead to protect your sanity.
I love that so much. But here is the harsh reality of this journey. Emotional intelligence might get you a ride, but it does absolutely nothing to prevent a geographical disaster.
Very true.
You could be the best listener in the world, but if the driver doesn't know where they're going, you are doomed.
And that transition from emotional maneuvering to sheer navigational panic happens the second the sun goes down.
Where is he at this point?
He is stuck in Takasaki in Gunma Prefecture. It's getting dark, the temperature's dropping, the evening rush hour is chaotic, and Tsukuba is still incredibly far away.
Walk me through what happens when the digital safety net we all rely on today simply doesn't exist, because this is the year 2000.
Right. So he eventually is picked up by a very kind couple heading out to the movies.
Okay, good start.
They buy him hot coffee, they buy him snacks. They are genuinely trying to help him, but like you said, there are no smartphones, no little blue GPS dots.
Yeah.
Just vibes, basically. They are relying on a massive, unwieldy paper road atlas, and the driver gets hopelessly, irredeemably lost in the dark suburban sprawl.
Oh, no.
They're just driving in circles.
The absolute nightmare scenario when you are racing the sunset.
The driver finally realizes he's completely lost and offers to just take Marcy back to where they started in Takasaki so he can try again.
Which is the logical thing to do.
But Marcy politely declines.
Why?
To avoid going backward. He asks to be dropped off right there at a random, isolated convenience store in the middle of nowhere.
Just abandon me here, thanks.
Yeah, and the driver points into the dark and says, National Route 50 is just a 20-minute walk that way.
Uh-huh.
So Marcy starts walking.
Let me guess. It was not 20 minutes.
It turns into a grueling 1-hour death march in the pitch black along rural roads with fading streetlights.
I can't even imagine.
But here is the detail from the logs that is truly fascinating. He is carrying a 30-kilogram backpack.
Which is about 66 pounds.
Yeah. But the audio logs specifically note that to him, the backpack felt light.
66 pounds feels light. How does the human body even process that?
Well, because previously she had worked an incredibly grueling job at a mountain hut in Tateyama.
Oh, wow.
Up there, he was required to carry 60-kilogram packs, over 130 pounds.
That's practically another person.
Exactly, straight up the mountain. So compared to that, this 30-kilogram pack barely registers as a strain.
Okay, that is a perfect metaphor for how we view our own burdens.
How so?
It's like the baseline calibration in a machine. If a machine's warning sensors are calibrated to trigger only when the load hits 130 pounds, a 66-pound load isn't going to set off any alarms.
Right.
Even if the chassis is technically taking damage. Hardship is entirely relative to your past experiences. A massive problem feels manageable if you've spent your life surviving catastrophic ones.
Precisely. Resilience is a muscle that scales to the heaviest weight you've ever lifted.
Yeah.
And because he has normalized this extreme discomfort, his morale during this dark walk is bizarrely high.
Bizarrely, huh?
Yeah. At one point in the pitch black, he crosses a tiny bridge marking the border between Gunma and Tochigi prefectures.
Okay.
He gets so excited, he literally jumps over the borderline, pumping his fist in the air.
Jumping over a border in the pitch black with a 66-pound pack?
Mhm.
Where is this manic energy coming from?
He's actually channeling the energy of those extreme 90s Japanese reality TV shows like Denpa Shonen or Suyo Dudesho.
Oh, I know those shows.
Right. For context for you listening, those shows literally stripped comedians of their cash and stranded them in foreign locations.
Total survival mode.
Yeah, forcing them to survive entirely on hitchhiking and the kindness of strangers. Marcy is adopting that manic, surviving against the odds reality star persona to keep his spirits up.
Whatever works, I guess.
He feels victorious. He finally reaches Route 50 at 9:30 p.m.
But the victory is a complete illusion, isn't it?
It shatters almost immediately.
Oh, no.
He stands on Route 50 for 30 freezing minutes before a car finally pulls over. The driver rolls down the window and asks where he's headed.
And he says, to Cuba.
Right, and the driver just looks at him and says, "You are standing on the wrong side of the road. You are facing the complete opposite direction."
You have to be kidding me.
He spent an hour walking in the dark and another 30 minutes freezing outside for absolutely nothing.
Okay, I have to challenge the logic here. I am pushing back hard on this traveler's decision-making.
Go for it.
Why on earth didn't he just let that lost couple drive him back to where he started? He knew where that was. He could have regrouped safely.
Yeah, but...
Instead, he forced this drop-off into the unknown because of some unwritten hitchhiker's code that you must never, ever go backward. Isn't that just a massive sunk cost fallacy?
Objectively, geographically, going back to a known safe starting point was the logical move.
Right.
I will give you that. I will defend the psychological necessity of his choice, though. The hitchhiker's cardinal rule, never retreat, is driven by ego preservation, not navigation.
Okay, tell me more about that.
When you are relying on the unpredictable kindness of strangers, momentum is your only tangible asset. Any forward motion, even blindly into the dark, trips the ego into feeling like progress.
So going back feels like...
Retreating feels like total failure. It invites despair. You just can't do it.
So the ego is basically lying to the brain to prevent a mental collapse.
Yes. And the universe delivers a masterclass in irony here. I mean, he has incredibly high morale. He's jumping over borders.
Thumping his fist.
He's carrying his heavy burdens with a smile, proving his resilience. But because he was fundamentally facing the wrong direction on Route 50, all of that positive attitude, all of that physical effort was completely moot.
Wow.
You can be working incredibly hard, carrying your burdens brilliantly, and keeping a positive mindset, but if your ladder is leaning against the wrong wall, you are still moving away from your goal.
High morale plus the wrong direction equals zero progress. That is brutal. And this physical exhaustion, this realization that he is on the wrong side of the road, it completely strips away that manic reality TV show persona, doesn't it?
Oh, instantly. The adventure stops being fun, and the environment becomes actively hostile.
It's not just dark anymore. It is dangerously cold. The ego's shield is about to break under the sheer weight of thermodynamics.
It is. It's now 10:00 p.m. He is freezing, starving, and severely sleep-deprived.
And here is where his pride is put to the ultimate test. Remember that driver who warned him he was on the wrong side of the road?
Yeah, the guy in the fancy car.
The young, affluent guy in the foreign car. 10 minutes later, this rich young guy actually circles back.
Wow.
He pulls over and says, "Look, it's freezing out here. Let me drive you to a warm hotel or at least a police box where you could be safe."
And Marcy refuses.
He refuses. He cites his hitchhiker's pride. He says true hitchhikers do not pay for hotels.
It is a fascinating collision of worldviews right there.
This is where I lose all sympathy, honestly. Isn't this just self-destructive stupidity? When your fingers are numb, when your core temperature is dropping, why reject a warm hotel room just to prove a point to a stranger in a foreign car who doesn't even know your name?
Look, to us, sitting in a warm room, it sounds like stupidity.
It does.
But to him, accepting the hotel is an existential defeat. The rich driver is operating within the transactional rules of normal society. When you are cold, you use money to buy shelter.
Simple as that.
But Marcy has stepped completely outside of that system into a gift economy. He has constructed his entire identity around this highly rigid, self-imposed hitchhiker's code.
Okay.
He assumes this affluent driver could never possibly understand the spiritual purity of his struggle, so he dismisses the help. He allows his constructed identity to dictate his survival strategy.
And that constructed identity almost freezes him to death.
Almost.
He gets dropped off at yet another convenience store. He waits outside in the cold for another entire hour. It hits 11:00 p.m.
It's so late now.
An older local man pulls up, and offers to drive him to the nearest train station. And again, our traveler stubbornly refuses.
Still clinging to the code.
He says, "No trains, I must hitchhike to Tsukuba." So he stays outside. But his biology is finally overriding his philosophy. He's shivering uncontrollably. The regret is really setting in.
And then the persistence of human empathy shines through. That older man actually drives away, worries about this kid freezing in the dark, and returns.
He comes back.
He recognized a physical vulnerability that the traveler's own pride wouldn't let him admit.
The older man says, "Get in, I'm taking you to the next major town, Oyama."
Right.
And he does something incredibly thoughtful. He goes into the convenience store and buys Marcy a hot canned coffee.
But he doesn't drink it.
He doesn't even drink it.
He can't. The conceptual luxury of a beverage is entirely replaced by the primal need for thermal heat.
Yeah, he uses it as a tool.
He uses the hot aluminum can as a medical heating pad. Aluminum transfers heat rapidly, so he presses it against his frozen face, his cheeks, his numb fingers, just trying to restore capillary blood flow to his skin.
It gets even more primal than that. The older man realizes the kid is starving, so he runs back into the store and buys him a bento box. A packed meal.
A lifesaver.
And our traveler, this guy who earlier was so polite, who patiently listened to breakup stories to earn his rides, is so delirious from hunger that he just rips open the box and aggressively devours the food.
Yeah, just inhalers it.
He doesn't even pause to say thank you first.
Yeah.
It is a purely instinctual, animalistic reaction.
Extreme exhaustion completely strips away the ego. I mean,
Right.
earlier he was managing his image, performing as the noble, stoic adventurer who refuses hotels.
Right.
But true physical vulnerability removes all of our social masks. In that moment with the bento box, he wasn't a philosopher. He was just a cold, hungry organism needing calories.
Wow.
And yet, what is truly beautiful here is the unconditional nature of the older man's empathy.
Yeah, he didn't judge him.
He returned twice. He saw past the traveler's absurd, self-destructive stubbornness and simply provided the warmth and sustenance that was required. He didn't demand gratitude. He just offered care.
It's an incredible moment of human connection. But as beautiful as that moment is, the reality of the clock is still ticking.
It is.
And this brings us to the agonizing cliffhanger of our source material today. The older man drives them to the next town and drops our traveler off at Oyama Station.
And it is now past 11:00 p.m.
The traveler walks up to the timetable. His belly is full, but his body is completely battered. He checks the schedule. The last train to Tsukuba is long gone. The station is shutting down.
The safety net has been entirely removed.
So the older man kindly drops him off at the dark, freezing outskirts of the town, near a road that supposedly leads toward his destination.
Supposedly.
It is almost midnight. The temperature is plunging. And Tsukuba, his final goal, is still incredibly far away. He is standing in the dark, alone again, raising his thumb to empty streets.
The mission is still not accomplished.
The audio logs just leave us hanging right there in the freezing dark. To be continued in our next deep dive.
It is a masterful, dramatic pause in the narrative.
So what does this all mean for you listening to this right now? You probably aren't hitchhiking through freezing Japanese backroads tonight.
Probably not.
But I want you to think about the hotels or the trains in your own life. What easy solutions, what offers of help are you stubbornly refusing right now because of a rigid sense of pride?
It's a great question.
Are you forcing yourself to walk an hour in the dark just to stick to a script you've written for yourself when someone is offering you a ride back to safety?
You know, we spend so much time analyzing this traveler's stubbornness, his absolute refusal to use the tools of modern convenience.
Yeah.
But stepping back from the source material, I wonder if our modern world presents the exact opposite danger.
What do you mean?
We live in an era of the blue GPS dot. We have engineered the uncertainty out of getting from point A to point B. We never have to ask a stranger for directions. We never have to walk an hour in the dark to realize we are on the wrong side of the road. But by removing all the friction, have we completely eliminated our capacity to build resilience?
Wow. If the 66-pound backpack calibrates your strength, what happens when you never carry anything at all?
Exactly. When the digital safety net inevitably fails, when the battery dies or the map is wrong or the crisis is emotional rather than geographical, we might find ourselves entirely unequipped to handle the dark.
That's chilling.
We look at this hitchhiker and think his self-imposed struggle is madness. But maybe a little bit of manufactured struggle, a little bit of stepping off the mapped grid is the only way to build the muscle required to survive when the real storms hit.
That is a fascinating thought to leave on. The comfort of the blue dot might just be softening us up. Keep that in mind the next time you are tempted to engineer every ounce of uncertainty out of your day. Until next time, keep exploring the dark side of the road.